Loftier goal, steady sunward, though the weather hide the wide and treacherous shoal. Lift up your head to the rising sun, Bahamas, till the road you've trod lead unto your God. March on, Bahamas.
What a powerful rendition. Give that man a round of applause. We now call to the podium Ms. Phyllis Barron, country representative for the Organization of American States, who will bring her remarks.
A pleasant good evening to everyone. Standing on the protocol that has already been established, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the Organization of American States National Office in the Bahamas, the University of the Bahamas, and the Bahamas National Reparations Committee joint commemoration of the 8th Inter-American Week for People of African Descent. We are really pleased that you have taken time from your hectic schedules to be here with us this Friday evening. We noted it's a Friday evening. It clearly reflects that your utmost commitment on this resilient journey. The United Nations has proclaimed its second International Decade for People of African Descent, which runs from January 2025 to December 2030, with this year's theme being Recognition, Justice, and Development. As always, the OAS has again adopted and adapted the UN theme to read, I have a dream, recognition, justice, and development. This seeks to highlight the iconic line from one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s most renowned speech delivered in August of 1963 at the March in Washington, during the height of the civil rights movements in the United States. These admirable words have transcended generations, captured the hope and aspirations of all humanity, that one day we will not be judged by our race, ethnicity, or creed, but rather be accepted and celebrated for our shared mortality and the array of diversity which we add to humanity. March 25th marked the International Day for the remembrance of the victim of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. This day reminded us of our ancestors who have suffered and died at the hands of this inhumane system. It also aims to raise awareness of our invaluable contributions made as a people. Thus, We must amplify our voices in recognizing the legacy of slavery and the slave trade and its impact on the lives of our people of African descent in this hemisphere. Since 2018, the OAS has consistently celebrated the Inter-American Week for People of African Descent to affirm its commitment to ensuring that people of African descent in the Americas enjoy equal rights and opportunities as a people. This year, the OAS celebrates the event with a series of online and in-person activities within all its member states. And so we are here tonight as part of this celebration. At the OAS, we underscore the significance of observing these historical events with annual activities that foster greater awareness and respect for the heritage and culture of people of African descent, and more so, their contributions to the development of society. As we come together to commemorate the 8th Inter-American Week for People of African Descent in our hemisphere, let us reflect on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., and reaffirm our commitment to amplify our voices in our communities, while we reflect on the advancement we have made in highlighting and tackling systemic racism and structural injustice, while looking towards building a future rooted in justice and respect for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barron, for those very thoughtful and insightful words reflecting on the importance of tonight's event and the work that we have in front of us. We will now listen and reflect on the message of the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, His Excellency Luis Almagro, as he shares on this year's theme. This will be a recorded message.
As we gather here today in memory of our valiant ancestors, anti-segregationist leaders, human rights defenders, our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, who have worked hard to stand and fight against racism and all forms of discrimination, we say thanks to them. We thank them for their courage and resolve to fight for the freedom of the oppressed and against the vicious cycle of violence and inequality that polluted our Western Hemisphere for centuries. We thank them for enlightening teachings that proudly disabused the ignorant bigots who blindly believed and accepted that a black person was less than a human. We thank the supporters of justice and equity who recognize the ineffectiveness divisive policies that segregate and weaken societies, and instead embrace the benefits of ending the divide between our people for an unified and peaceful future. We say thank you to our world's governments for enacting anti-discrimination legal frameworks and regulations aimed to protect our people from the regressive attitudes of the past that unfortunately, in spite of all our advancements, continue to exist today. Why? Simply because our generation hasn't as yet completed the job of our freedom-fighting ancestors, but we can still do so. It is right that we recognize the remarkable contribution of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who expressed his aspiration for equality by the words, "I have a dream." But today, recognition, justice, and development is beyond a dream. It is a right and an expectation that must be fulfilled if our Americas is to command a place of respect and honor in the global community. I recommend OAS member states who have not yet ratified or acceded to the Inter-American Convention Against Racist Racial Discrimination and related forms of intolerance to do so for the benefits of our peoples. A unified inter-American system with the efficient utility of its convention that selflessly guards the human rights and dignity of a man, woman, boy, and girl is one where justice can be felt and respected without distinction as to race and other personal characteristics. This goal is one to which I am personally deeply committed, and I encourage all delegations gathered here to join me in that noble cause.
We want to certainly extend a thank you to His Excellency for those spirited remarks, and we'll reflect on them certainly as we progress through tonight's program and into the following days. We now turn our attention to our keynote speaker, Mrs. Maynard Gibson, who is recognized globally and locally as a thought leader and currently serves as the chair of UB's Board of Trustees, the first female to serve in this capacity. Indeed, Mrs. Allison Maynard Gibson, KC, is a prominent advocate for women's and children's rights and an expert in governance, restructuring, and organizational rebranding. She served twice as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs in the Bahamas, making significant progress in access to justice, particularly through technology and people-centered approaches. She also served as the first Minister of Financial Services of the Bahamas, a member of the Advisory Council of Club de Madrid, and as an overseas bencher of the Honorable Society of the Inner Temple, the first Bahamian to serve in this capacity. Some of her past service includes being a member of the Justice of All Task Force and of the first ever People's Tribunal on Economic Crime in South Africa. In 2019, she took a year's sabbatical at Harvard's Advanced Leadership Initiative. She has worked with several non-governmental organizations to expand concepts of access to justice with a people-centered approach. Mrs. Maynard Gibson has served in frontline politics as a member of the Senate and of the House of Assembly. She's a frequent speaker on justice-related issues. Unequivocally, Mrs. Maynard Gibson has a proven and distinguished career and is recognized for her endeavors in these areas. Let us give a hearty welcome to our keynote speaker as she approaches the lectern.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to please stand on the protocol that has been established, except, of course, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our First Lady and also thank Her Excellency Phyllis Barron for bringing this wonderful event again to University of the Bahamas. Today, we gather in unity, reflecting on the vibrant and resilient community of people of African descent, particularly those who call the Bahamas home. This gathering is not only a celebration of our history, but a call to action. It is a reaffirmation of our commitment to justice, recognition, and development for the people of African descent, and a reminder that we all share a responsibility in developing and shaping the future. Today, we remember and honor our ancestors, especially those captured and brought across the ocean in slave ships to the Latin American and Caribbean regions. Our ancestors helped to shape the fabric of our nations, including our culture and our economy. From the legacy of slavery and colonialism to the continued fight for equality, we honor those who have fought for justice, and we open our eyes to the work still left to be done. My dream echoes the aspirations of countless generations before us. A dream that people of African descent will no longer be defined by the scars of history. Instead, we will document, trumpet, and celebrate the unyielding resilience and transformative contributions of our ancestors to our societies. From the sugar plantations to the political landscape, from our art and music to our leadership, the legacy of our ancestors is written into every corner of our nations. As we document and share their contributions, we must remember the courage and resilience of heroes of our history, such as Pompey and Kate Moss. Their struggles and those of others spurred the abolitionist movement. These heroes remind us that recognition is not only about the victories of the past, but also about honoring the sacrifices that have paved the way for the progress that we celebrate today. Let us also document, honor, and celebrate the impact of heroes from the broader African diaspora in Latin America and the Caribbean. Figures like Cudjo, a Maroon leader from Jamaica, and Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian revolutionary. From Cuba to Brazil, from the Dominican Republic to Puerto Rico, the legacy of African ancestors has shaped the political, cultural, and societal landscapes of this region. Their courage and fight for liberty continue to inspire us as we work toward a more just society. Like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, I dream that in the Bahamas and the region, our children will grow up in a just society, knowing that their skin is not a color barrier, but a badge of honor. Our culture will be embraced and celebrated, never hidden away. Stand tall, stand proud. We are descendants of the great kingdoms such as Mali, Oyo, and Benin. In these ancient kingdoms, art, music, and dance flourished. Africa is the birthplace of Homo sapiens. Ancient Ghana was a powerful trading empire. We must ensure that our history is taught honestly, acknowledging the scars of slavery, colonialism, and racial discrimination, and moving forward in a way that uplifts everyone, regardless of race, background, or heritage. I dream of justice for national sustainable development. Justice is a fundamental necessity for sustainable development. Without justice, there can be no lasting peace, no true progress, and no future where all people can thrive. How can we achieve meaningful development if we leave behind those who have been historically excluded or oppressed? The true potential of a society is realized when it ensures the rights and opportunities for all people, especially those who have been marginalized. Sustainable development means creating systems that create opportunity for all citizens to participate fully in every facet of life. Justice provides the foundation for true societal progress, whether it is in education, employment, healthcare, or leadership. When people are denied justice, when their voices go unheard, society suffers. A just society requires us to confront the deep-seated inequalities that persist in education, healthcare, and economic mobility. It requires a commitment to dismantling the systemic barriers that continue to hinder the success of people of African descent in the Bahamas and across the Caribbean. Sustainable development also requires a commitment to equity, ensuring that the development process benefits all people, especially those who have historically been excluded. Our economic development policies and incentives must be inclusive, ensuring that every individual, regardless of their race or background, has access to opportunities that will allow them to thrive. A just society doesn't just grow the economy, it ensures that everyone shares in its success. Sustainable development must also safeguard our natural environment. A society committed to justice will also be one that protects its land, water, and resources for future generations, ensuring that development does not come at the expense of the planet or our children. I dream that we will ever honor the struggle for justice and highlight heroes, our national heroes, like Sir Milo Butler and the suffragettes. As we journey towards justice, we must also honor the people who have fought for it. Sir Milo Butler, a central figure in Bahamian history, fought against racial discrimination, including the banking sector in the 1950s. I call Sir Milo the father of financial services in the Bahamas. He had the courage to fight for his vision of Bahamians of African descent working in clerical and ultimately in managerial positions in banks. Today, we professionals and others confidently brag about the deep bench of Bahamian, especially Bahamians of color, Black Bahamians, in financial services in the Bahamas. And we compare it to other Caribbean nations and nations in the region. It was Sir Milo's vision that changed the economic as well as the political landscape of the Bahamas. We must continue the movement that he started for fairness, equity, and equality. Likewise, we must honor the suffragettes, both in the Bahamas and globally. In the Bahamas, women like Eugenia Lockhart, Georgiana Kathleen Simonet, my paternal grandmother, Mary Ingram, Mabel Walker, Doris Johnson, Albertha Isaacs, and others led the way for securing the right for women to vote in 1962 and setting the stage for universal suffrage and broader social justice. Their struggle was not just for women's rights, but for the rights of all marginalized groups, reminding us that the fight for justice is interconnected and that we rise together. As these stories of struggle and triumph show, justice is not only about fighting systems of oppression, it's about challenging the norms that limit opportunity and creating a foundation for a more just, inclusive, and sustainable future. I dream that we will recognize the value and role of reparations in honoring the legacy of people of African descent. As we honor this legacy, we must consider the question of reparations. The brutal legacy of slavery, colonialism, and exploitation continues to impact communities of African descent worldwide, and the need for reparative justice cannot be ignored. The call for reparations is not just about compensating for past wrongs. It is also acknowledging and addressing the ongoing effects of these injustices. Reparations go beyond monetary compensation. They encompass acknowledgement, education, and investment in the communities most impacted and affected by historical wrongs. Reparations can play a crucial role in creating a more equitable society, providing resources for education, healthcare, and economic development for communities that have been historically marginalized. Reparative justice can heal the wounds of the past and enable us to move forward as a society. I dream of regional peoples as exemplars of peace and prosperity. My dream is not just for the Bahamas, it is for the entire region, from the Caribbean to Latin America. A dream that one day our peoples will be known for their peaceful and nonviolent societies. A dream that our communities will be free from the scourge of violence, that we will resolve our differences through dialogue, respect, and understanding. In this peaceful world, we will all live with a commitment to building harmonious relationships with our neighbors, our families, and our world. I dream that the Bahamas and nations of our region will feed ourselves, that no child will go to bed hungry, that no person will need to rely on outside sources for sustenance, because our lands are fertile and our people industrious. Our agricultural systems will flourish, driven by innovation, discipline, and care for our environment. I dream that our peoples will be known for their industriousness and discipline. They will wake each day committed and filled with hope, excitement, vision, courage, and discipline, knowing that the strength of our societies lies in the hard work of each individual. We will not only work for ourselves, but also for the collective good of our nations, our communities, and future generations who will inherit the legacy handed to us by our ancestors and upon which we build today. I dream that our institutions and our people will be uncompromising when it comes to caring for, nurturing, and unleashing the immense potential of the most vulnerable amongst us, our children, the disabled, and the elderly. Every person in our society will be valued and given the care that they deserve. This is the way of our ancestors. No one left behind, no one forgotten. I dream of development. Development is the last but not least word in this year's theme. The development of which I dream is inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. It is about growing the economy and ensuring that every citizen has access to opportunities that will allow them to thrive, not just survive. It is about building a society where people of African descent are not just part of the labor force, but leaders in business, policy, arts, culture, and innovation. It's about creating a future where every child, regardless of background, can achieve full development of their God-given gifts. Tonight, I stand on the stage where my maternal grandmother, Mrs. Meta Davis Cumberbatch, who was called the mother of the arts in the Bahamas and who was a concert pianist by profession. In the 50s and 60s, she caused the performance of many plays, choral performances, pianoforte recitals, and other cultural events right here on this stage. When people, including Bahamians, were saying that we had no culture, she was showcasing our culture and involving Bahamians and non-Bahamians from across the Bahamas and around the world. She and others set the example of embracing, nurturing, and celebrating the talents and skills of our people. Today, as we honor their collective legacies, let us agree that the dream of recognition, justice, and development is not a distant aspiration. It's a living reality, attainable through our commitment, our hard work, and our collective will. I have a dream that one day, the children of African descent in the Bahamas and across the globe will inherit a world where recognition, justice, and development, and let me add peace and prosperity, are not distant dreams, but living, breathing realities. A world where the sacrifices of our ancestors are honored, and we and our children and future generations, their descendants, stand tall and contribute to the prosperity of the world. Let us be the architects of that future. Let us build a world where every person of African descent is seen, valued, and celebrated. Let us honor our past, live fully in the present, and build a future filled with recognition, justice, and development for all. Thank you.
That was powerful, wasn't it? Was that not inspirational? That tickled my spine. As she was speaking, I was just thinking about how she empowered us to think about our past. We learned about Sir Milo Butler. We learned about Kate Moss. We learned about ancestors who fought and creatively adjusted and adapted to the rigors of the Bahamian reality, dealing with racism and discrimination. But we also learned about the present condition in our country. She gave us a very clear and erudite understanding of our country and its challenges right now. And then, in a marvelous way, she presented us with an amazing picture for the future. A future that's not too far away. As she said in her last words, it's attainable. These aspirational goals are right here in front of us. Madam Chair, thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause. We now move to a musical interlude as a transition to our panel discussion. And we are so delighted to have UB's Gumbe Ensemble to come forward and perform for us. Let us give them an applause as they come forward to perform for us.
Ask me why I run. Tell you why I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Now I came home 1 minute to 3. He say who and I say me. He said I get company. I say yo man, that is bigger me. Just when I begin to shout, if I can't come in, then she can't come out. The woman with the gun came through the door. Under my feet grass grew no more. Ask me why I run. Tell me why I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Think I'm gonna change my name, never gonna love again. Tell you the truth, the way I feel. I'm gonna break my neck on my banana peel. Ask me why I run, tell you I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Ask me why I run, tell you why I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Tell you why I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Ask me why I run. Oh, tell me why I run. The woman at the door had a goddamn shotgun. That is why I run. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Daddy's gone away on a sailing boat, and if he don't come back, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Daddy's gone away on a sailing boat, and if he don't come back, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Daddy's gone away on a sailing boat, and if he don't come back, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind your baby. Daddy's gone away on a sailing boat, and if he don't come back, stay home and mind your baby.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here to share a little bit of this music with you. Gumbe music I term as the acoustic music of the Bahamas. We had the Charlie Adamsons, the George Simonettes, Eloise Lewis, and Bahama Mama, that's Maureen DeValle, and so many more, Blind Blake. The list goes on and on. And then we are very fortunate that we're teaching these young people to keep in touch with the past. You all love this music?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Yes, yes. And we've been teaching them the repertoire to keep the music alive. And we found ways also to have them do it in their own way. So we taken some popular songs, we do it in the Gombe style. The entire ensemble is about, how many of us? 14 of us? It's about 14 persons in the group. Your traditional Gombe ensemble is usually about this size. The Eloise Lewis Trio, the George Simonet Trio or Quartet. But so many students sign up for this course, it's almost like a big band in the music block. You know. We're going to do maybe 1 or 2 songs. I don't know how long you want us to do this for you. But we're going to take one of your popular songs that we do in a Gombe style so you could see how we can use the stylings of the George Simonets and the Adamsons and make it their own.
Oh, his eyes made stars look like they're not shining. His hair falls perfectly without him trying. He's so beautiful, and I tell him every day. Yeah, I know, when I compliment him, he won't believe me. It's so sad to think he don't see what I see. But every time he asks me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. The way you are, the way you are. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. When I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. The way you are, the way you are. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to take a line from that Bruno Mars song to the the Gombe Ensemble. You are amazing just the way you are. And I particularly liked, Professor Justilian, how you cleared up and clarified what Gombe sound really is and how it originated, and we think about George Simonet and others from a bygone era. And it reinforced really what our keynote speaker was saying about we had such a rich culture. We have so much to be proud of, don't we? So we're now transitioning to our panelists, and we have 2 panelists, not 3. We have one of our panelists who has an unforeseen circumstance which would not allow her to be here tonight, but the show will go on, and so I will ask for our first panelist to come forward, and that would be Ms. Gaynell Curry. I'm going to read the bio and you can come forward. Ms. Gaynell Curry is an independent expert member and vice chairperson-elect of the United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, which serves as an advisory body and platform for promoting the full inclusion of people of African descent in their respective communities, as well as respect for their human rights and equal treatment without discrimination of any kind. She has over 2 decades of engagement in the United Nations system. Ms. Curry oversaw the work of the OHCHR New York office in support of the International Decade for People of African Descent and regularly coordinated events to promote the decade. She lectured at the OHCHR Fellowship Program to promote the rights of people of African descent and advised the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, as well as the UN Group of Independent Eminent Experts on the implementation of the Durban Declaration and the Program of Action on Racism. Ms. Curry has held several positions in her country's government and is currently an associate professor of law at the University of the Bahamas in the School of Social Science. That's where I reside as well. I have to put that out there, Dean. Beyond that, she lectures in international human rights law, public international law, and international environmental law. She has been a guest lecturer at several universities in North America and Europe and a fellow at the Institute of International Humanitarian Affairs, IIHA, at Fordham University. With her blend of global and national experience, passion, and academic rigor, Ms. Gaynell Diana Curry remains a driving force in the pursuit of equality and justice for all. Let's give her a round of applause. And before I introduce my next panelist, I have to introduce his grandmother. Beverly Wallace Whitfield is an esteemed woman in our country. She served, believe it or not, as the head of the Secretariat for Independence in 1973. And I had the pleasure of interviewing her a couple years ago, so I know all of this about her and a little bit more. It's so wonderful to have you with us. Let's give her a little applause. And now Kenneth Wallace Whitfield. Kenneth Wallace Whitfield is a seasoned career diplomat with extensive experience in international relations. For nearly a decade, he has advocated for addressing historical injustices and their ongoing impacts. He is currently a member of the National Reparations Committee and previously served on the National Commission on Marijuana. His unwavering commitment to promoting greater awareness and reparative action has been felt here in the Bahamas and abroad. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. I'm going to join them on the seat next to Ms. Curry, and we're going to have a casual conversation, but you'll have opportunity to make your opening statements. You have about 10 minutes each. And you were suggesting? Certainly. If you want me, I can be the thorn between the roses. That's fine. So we will proceed with Ms. Curry first, and then Mr. Whitfield second, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. And if I feel the spirit moving, I can ask a question as a response to their presentations. So they'll have 10 minutes each, starting with Ms. Curry.
Feels a little tall. Navigating spaces, negotiating to enter and thrive in work and social spaces, hoping to receive as I give good graces, but often rejected, disrespected, undervalued, invisible, on the basis of the skin I am in. Black, Caribbean woman, daughter, mother, sister, descendant, of the African continent. Thank you. Resilient, empowered, and uplifted because of the shoulders on which I stand. Persistent in my call for all human rights for all human beings. Persistent in my call for non-discrimination and equality between the sexes. Persistent in my call for recognition, development, and justice for Black people, for Black countries. Wherever there are traces of faces that look like me, my call is for justice. Climate justice, environmental justice, economic justice, reparatory justice. Good evening. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. I wanted to start by sharing, and some of you may have heard that poem before. It's a little poem I wrote, really reflecting on what being Black means to me. I will stand on those protocols that have been established. I thank the organizers, the OAS, and I send special greetings to our First Lady and to our chair. It's good to see both of you, all three of you. The United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, of which I am a member, proudly representing the Bahamas and CARICOM, has been persistent in its call for a second decade. Since the Permanent Forum was operationalized in 2021, we have worked in solidarity with our partners, particularly civil society partners, throughout the diaspora and in Africa, to promote a second decade that is intentional, transformational, and decolonial. We don't talk about the remaining colonies in this region. Some have asked, why do we need a second decade? I contend that after 400 years of slavery, colonialism, systemic racism, and other repressive regimes and processes, what's another 20 years? Indeed, 20 years seem small and insufficient when we consider the depth of the entanglement and uneasiness that many Black people experience even today throughout this hemisphere. Undoubtedly, the transatlantic trade in enslaved persons was one of the most horrific chapters in human history, resulting in crimes against humanity and grave human rights violations that persist today in laws, policies, institutions, practices, and deeply held beliefs that threaten even the mental emancipation of Black people. This racial discrimination, born of historical injustices, has entrenched some Black people in a seemingly unending cycle of poverty, underdevelopment, unemployment, marginalization, trauma, violence. We know of violence only too well in our own country, and social instability across this hemisphere. What is worrying for me and my colleagues on the Permanent Forum is that we stand to lose ground previously gained in the fight to end persistent, systemic, and structural racism and racial discrimination due to recent developments in global realities. Indeed, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his statement last year, marking the International Day of Remembrance of Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, stated that we can draw a straight line from the era of colonialism, exploitation, to the social and economic inequalities and injustices of today in many of our former colonies. Haiti, Haiti. Some of you may have heard me say that there can be no real discussion on sustainable development in the Caribbean without a discussion on reparations. But I say also, there can be no real discussion on reparations without a true and genuine discussion on Haiti. The straight line that the Secretary General was speaking about leads directly, in my view, to Haiti, more than any other country in this hemisphere. Arguably, Haiti is in the position it is in today largely because of its history of enslavement, colonialism, and its fight for independence, becoming the first free Black republic in this region, an independence which came at a very high price. Despite this, we must remember the impact that Haiti has had on the people of Africa and the people of African descent globally. We must remember that Haiti has played a unique role in the history of anti-colonialism, anti-racism, the abolition of the enslavement, and in movements for the human dignity, rights, and self-determination of Africans and people of African descent. Haiti's rich culture must never be forgotten. The cultural legacy has long served as both a symbol of resilience and a framework of collective identity. The Permanent Forum has prioritized reparations for people of African descent, and at the top of our list is Haiti. I recently led the development of a policy position paper on Haiti, looking at the legacy issues. How can we address them? And making those direct connections to the legacies and what we see going on in that country today. The people of Haiti deserve the right to a life free from violence. They deserve the right to peace. The Haitian people deserve the right to an adequate standard of living. They deserve the right to development. The urgent, comprehensive, sustained attention of the international community is imperative if Haitian people are to enjoy these rights now. The Permanent Forum understands that and is working diligently for Haiti. So why a second decade? Looking at the achievements of the first decade, while a lot of movement happened, not enough sustainable and long-lasting change has occurred for us to say that we can stop now. Some states have mentioned that the COVID pandemic was a limitation. We can speak about Dorian, that's a reality. While many NGOs have highlighted the lack of political will, and regrettably that is a reality as well. The second decade gives us an opportunity to re-galvanize this political will at all levels and build upon the work we have started in the areas of recognition, justice, and development. One of the biggest successes, in my view, of the first decade was the implementation of the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. The forum is a consultative mechanism for people of African descent and provides the largest platform at the international level to collectively work on improving the human rights, safety, and quality of life and livelihoods of people of African descent. The Permanent Forum is composed of 10 members serving in their own personal capacity as independent experts. But the mandate can be distilled into 4 areas, and I'll go over them briefly because I think it's important. This is the first time we've had such a forum for ourselves. Indigenous people have such a forum. We are having this forum for the first time, and I think it's crucial. And I think we all have to embrace the work that the forum is doing and also find a way to engage with the forum. So the first, I look at the forum's mandate in 4 broad areas. Ds, the 4 Ds I like to call them. Data is the first one. We know that we can go nowhere really without understanding what is happening to our people. We need disaggregated data. and statistics in relation to people of African descent. Regrettably, we're often invisible in the data. And I worked with the UN for many, many years, and I often said, this does not reflect us. The declaration, this for the first time we're talking about elaborating a declaration on the human rights of people of African descent. This is a declaration that the Forum is leading, and we're elaborating this declaration, so it's Black people elaborating this for Black people. No one's imposing it on us, and we welcome all of your feedback, all of your input, all of your support. The third D is Durban, and we really support the follow-up of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, which was the first gathering, huge gathering in Durban, South Africa, of Black people, looking at issues of racism, xenophobia, and all related forms of intolerances. So we're looking at how can we actually implement the Durban Declaration, and we have lots of recommendations out there, a significant body of recommendations that we need to work on to support Black people. And finally, of course, the decade. The decade is something that we're going to be working closely to see how we can implement, how we can support. CARICOM is very fortunate to have two members on the Permanent Forum, myself and my colleague, Dr. June Suma of St. Lucia, who's currently the chair of the forum. We are committed to this work. We are committed to this work. We are committed to advancing the agenda for people of African descent. Building on the issue of data, I and my research team, and I have one of my researchers out there, Gabriella Pintad-Nuri, and also to Neil Francis, a former student here at University of the Bahamas, and I tried to see how I can engage the students in the work that I am doing at the UN. And so they have been working with me along with Dayton University in Ohio to do some research on the realities. We're trying to fill that gap of a lack of data on the realities of women and girls of African descent. And Mr. Moderator, I didn't really focus too much locally and on women because I thought my dear colleague and friend Marion would be here to speak about that, but I will touch briefly on women's rights, just briefly. And so what we've been looking at is the extent to which the international UN mechanisms have adequately assessed the rights, lives, and livelihoods of women of African descent. The extent to which these mechanisms have looked at that issue, the intersection of what I'd like to call Blackness and womanhood. For me, that's key. Former United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, my former boss, had said that when gender, skin color, ethnicity, class, religion, beliefs, migratory status, and other grounds of discrimination combine and intersect, they create intricate webs of deprivation and denial of rights, often that oppress, cause suffering to, and hinder the development of millions of people, many being women and girls. Intersectionality is key. We are not an homogeneous group. While we call for reparations, we would look at the specificities of people. We must look at the specificities of marginalized people, of poor people, of people who are underrepresented, under-recognized. So the research team is looking at the rights of women and girls as assessed in the concluding observations of 4 United Nations treaty bodies. I'll try to be quick, Mr. Moderator. So we're looking at what CEDAW, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, sorry, the Committee on the Discrimination Against Women is saying. We're looking at the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination, CERD, what they're saying, and what the Human Rights Committee is saying, and also the Committee on the Rights of All Migrant Workers and members of their families. So what have these committees been saying? Regrettably, not enough about women of African descent. So the researchers have looked at more than 600 concluding observations and other relevant documents to see where we're at. What is interesting about this, for me, is that Caribbean states, they rarely mention the rights of women and girls of African descent. in their reports, in their human rights retreating reports to the treaty bodies. Much needs to be said about racial discrimination faced by women and girls of African descent in this region generally, including issues of colorism. We don't speak about colorism enough, but it's a reality. Dark girls like me faced it, continue to face it. The most important finding from our research is that countries studied have made some progress. Legal, policy, social efforts to address issues faced by women and girls of African descent, and by people of African descent more broadly. However, the lack of enforcement, the lack of funding, the lack of resources, the lack of commitment in the implementation is where the challenge is. Overall, the physical, mental, and emotional violence faced by women and girls of African descent needs to be assessed more deeply and addressed more intentionally. It is our hope that the second decade will bring more specificity and appropriate responses to the plight of women and girls of African descent. This study, we will officially launch this study in a couple of weeks in New York at the 4th session of the Permanent Forum, and we hope that some of you will be with us, particularly those of you from the National Commission on Reparations. And we again hope to be able to launch this study in Africa when we attend the Pretoria Conference in celebration of the African Union's Declaration of the Year of Reparations of Reparation on African Descent, of people of African descent, which will be in June 2025. We have to find a way, Madam Representative, to also launch this work in Latin America. I think it'll be crucial. As we move forward in the second decade, we must continue to have discussions such as the one that we're having here tonight, and take it around the country to include people of all communities and at all levels in the Bahamas. The issues of people of African descent are not only issues for Black people, but are issues for all of us. When we speak of reparations, it is not about us against them. It is not about Black against white. It is about development. Development of the country as a whole is about healing the country as a whole and ensuring that future generations of Bahamians will fully comprehend that no matter how long it takes, justice will prevail. And I will end with a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, not "I Have a Dream," not that one, but this one that I think is really relevant for the need to come together as a people in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, in the region, in the Americas. And Dr. King rightly said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I thank you for listening.
I'm adjusting the mic for our next speaker. What a powerful, thoughtful commentary. We appreciate that. And our second panelist, Mr. Whitfield.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, fellow travelers, it's been a rich experience so far, and I'm grateful to be here sharing a few thoughts with you in an informal capacity. As you may have heard, I work for the government, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, okay? I need my job. But as I said, we're all brothers and sisters, because in my view, we all have the same mother and father, the same parents, which are Mother Nature, or Mother Earth, and Father Time. And we all are travelers. All of us traveled here today, for example, and we all, well, thank you for coming and attending as well, but we all are passing through. all right, on a collective journey towards recognition, justice, and development for all. In some of my travels, I visited Ghana in West Africa, where the Akan people have a philosophical principle known as Sankofa, which basically means to go back and get it. And in short, it symbolizes the act of retrieving lessons or strength from the past and bringing it forward as a mechanism to move forward. So in this discussion, I wish to broadly and briefly reflect on some of the lessons from the past which have strengthened me to get involved in the reparations movement, and lessons I believe all of us can learn from. The theme of today's lecture evokes the memory of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose life and legacy has an impact and inspires people of African descent around the world, and people generally speaking. Dr. King once said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. These words resonate with me and remind all of us that despite the long road that we have traveled and the sometimes bumpy road ahead, the attainment of justice for all remains our clarion call. Before his assassination, Dr. King recognized and remembered that we still have a very long way to go on our collective journey for justice. During the Poor People's Campaign, Dr. King called for a form of reparations. More recently, in the United States, certain universities and institutions have begun creating a form of reparations. So in some contexts, we could see that change is slowly happening and we're moving in the right direction. But for over 400 years, people of African descent suffered under a system of genocide, chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, and other atrocities which amount to crimes against humanity, crimes that have no legal or moral defense. The legacies from that period have a present-day impact on the lives of people of African descent, and by extension, all humanity, all life on this planet. So as we reflect on lessons from the past, I want to reflect also on the Haitian Revolution, like my fellow panelists did. And we see that that was a turning point in our collective call for justice for all. After winning the battle for their freedom against France and other colonizing states, the people of Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, formerly enslaved, now liberated Africans, were forced to pay via gunboat diplomacy to the French people for their so-called loss of property. This further extraction of wealth was made in order for Haiti to be recognized by the international community of the 1820s. Later, in 2003, Haiti made a formal request to France for the restitution of that money in a reparation-style developmental framework. Now, along with CARICOM or the Caribbean community, Haiti is again calling for reparatory justice. I am reminded of words attributed to Dr. Martin Luther King that, again, my colleague spoke about, and it is, again, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. So with respect to Haiti, we can see how reparatory justice for Haiti would have an indirect impact on the Bahamas, on the region, and this is why we speak with one voice on this issue. It also, that quote, reminds me of the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which pretty much says that I am what I am because you are what you are. So we are all in this together. The call for reparations is not just a national or regional issue, but one for global concern. And as referred to earlier, in the year 2000, the United Nations held a world conference against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia in Durban, South Africa. The Durban Declaration and Plan of Action created a framework that, among other things, recognized the rights of people of African descent and paved the way for international commitments to address enduring impacts of injustice. This declaration led to the establishment of the UN Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent, the UN Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, the First and Second International Decades for People of African Descent, the CARICOM 10-point Plan for Reparatory Justice. These and other initiatives represent our collective effort at the international level to ensure that our voices are heard and that the wounds of history are healed through concrete, systemic action. The CARICOM 10-point Plan for Reparations can be seen as a developmental plan for persons of African descent who, upon emancipation and independence, had no development plan. However, the former slave owners had a development plan in the form of compensation. So since there was no development plan, CARICOM came up with one. And very briefly, that plan speaks to a full and formal apology, a repatriation program, indigenous peoples development program, cultural institutions, public health support, an educational program, psychological rehabilitation, technology transfer, an African knowledge program, and debt cancellation. So we can see at the international level through the various UN bodies and systems, and at the regional level through CARICOM, and at the domestic level through the Rastafari community and the National Reparations Committee, that this issue of reparatory justice is being addressed. In places like Grenada, we see where heirs of slave owners have begun to make reparations. So as I look at it, the moral universe that Martin Luther King spoke about, the arc of that, is slowly bending towards justice, a more just world. The heirs of slain owners just mentioned recognized the injustice of chattel slavery, apologized, and made an attempt at reparations through an educational program facilitated through CARICOM. Many of us see a time where morality would reign and those colonizing states, along with the Vatican and other relevant entities, would likewise come to the table and have a meaningful exchange on these pressing issues of international concern. And somewhat on a lighter note, and still in the spirit of Sankofa, I want us to reflect on lessons learned from the 2000 Summer Olympics, where we saw the Bahamian Golden Girls win for the first time on the track a gold medal for the Bahamas. And as an athlete or former athlete, I can tell you, even though that race took less than 60 seconds, that was years of effort, of hard work, of teamwork, different women with different backgrounds working together for a common goal, committed and dedicated. Not just those women, you had the coaches, you had the supporters that brought that victory to a reality. And what I learned or take from that is we have many victories in our past that we can tap into and remember and reflect on and use as motivation for what we have in this mission going forward. So I began by mentioning that we are all brothers and sisters and that we're all traveling together, but I would like to add that we all have a leg to run on this relay, and if not a leg, we all have a part to play in pushing the pace of progress. We all have talents that can be used in some way, shape, or form. Tony McKay, some of you know as Exuma, used his talents over 40 years ago and gave us a song called Pay Me, which is essentially the unofficial reparations anthem, and inspires many of us on the committee and throughout the diaspora. So I say that to say, whatever talents you have, it can be used in this effort. So in closing, once we continue to reflect on the strength and lessons from our past, we will undoubtedly recognize that we already have the tools that we need to overcome and move forward, obtaining the justice that we seek on our collective journey. So as we pass through, let's travel safely. Thank you.
Yes, Tony McKay would have sung, "Pay Me What You Owe Me." I will say that I am invigorated by the challenge that we have before us, which is to march together towards a common loftier goal. Collectively, we can do it. Individually, not so much. Very good. Thank you very much. We are now in the panel portion of our evening together, and we have mics on both sides for people who would like to ask a question of our panelists. This is really the exciting, meaty part of the panel session, because you get feedback and instant comments from the panelists here. So we encourage people to ask questions. You can go to the mic if you have a question. Yes, I'm happy to see persons moving in that direction. Please. Any questions? Okay. Go ahead, doctor. Yes.
Yes, okay, fair enough. How do we address the vexing question of Haiti? First as the Haitians, and then as an international community.
In my view, there are many ways that we can address the issue of Haiti. When I think of someone like Dr. Martin Luther King again, he gave us a blueprint before he died. And he spoke about nonviolent action. He spoke about using the tools that we already have. And when it comes to Haiti, I'm speaking personally, it requires collective action. What Haiti did, it helped to liberate most of us throughout the world. What, in my view, is required is for us to take a look at the economics of everything. We in the African diaspora have a lot of buying potential, and if we, as Martin Luther King mentioned, use that power in a collective way without fighting and arguing, we can push the pace. And what I mean by that is we can boycott. That's my view. If it's France, whatever the case may be, products from France, I think that's the only way forward, to be honest with you. Money. People recognize money. So that's my view.
Ms. Curry?
Yes, thank you. I would add to that, you know, one of the things we just did in the Permanent Forum, and I mentioned it in my presentation, is that we just developed a position paper. And I think it's important for us to think about Haiti not only in its current reality. We have to look at the legacies of the country, what has happened. We have to make those connections. And I think the conversation really has to start there. We don't necessarily agree on the forum with this, but I will say that some of my colleagues would want a more sort of engagement of what's happening currently. But I do believe that we cannot speak about the current realities without addressing the past of that country. I mean, to me, it's like trying to pretend that hundreds of years didn't happen. Right, trying to pretend that what happened was just a short period of time that we didn't have a chance to quite get, you know, we're past that now, we've moved on. I disagree. So one of the things in the position paper we did is that we have to have a multi-tiered approach, and I agree with you, this is not a one quick solution, it's a multi-tiered approach, and so we've made recommendations, totally beyond what we thought we would do, but we made recommendations to the Security Council. We don't normally do that. Our position is usually to make recommendations to the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly. But we went to the Security Council. We put a specific challenge to the Secretary General, a specific challenge to the Human Rights Commissioner, and we want to put that very same specific challenge, as I mentioned earlier, to the regional processes. This cannot be a one-tier approach. It has to be multi-tiered, it has to be multifaceted, it has to be coordinated, and most importantly, there has to be commitment. There's partial, and there always has been, partial commitment to Haiti. And I've heard it said, oh, they're in this position, they're in this because this is their own making. They should not have rebelled. I'm like, are you kidding? So, you know, we have to we still need, first of all, a lot of education on this issue, but we need, more importantly, that commitment at varying levels. There's a very strong civil society in Haiti that we've been working with, and I really am impressed with the work that they're doing. They are determined that many of them are in danger themselves, and we continue to pray for them and to work with them and to see how we can get past this situation so at the very least they can continue to do their work as human rights advocates, to help people who are under stress, to feed people, at very high cost. And we're trying to bring human faces to the Security Council, to these high-level UN bodies that sometimes don't get to see the reality of individuals. We're going to be meeting sometime next week, I think, in Georgetown University to discuss this a little bit more. We're going to have a special session in New York in 2 weeks on this very issue. In 2 weeks, we will be remembering that in 1825, the payment of this, you know, I struggle sometimes with how to call it, right? The payment of this tax, if you will, I don't know how to call that. It's a punishment, right? We know what they call it, but for me, it's not just reparations, because there's something else for me. It changes the way we focus on the issue of reparations. It's almost a punishment. The payment of that started in 1825.
Yes.
In June April to 1825, and we're going to be remembering that next month in New York, that, hey, this is when you started. Not only did they start to have to pay, they were taking more than 50% of their annual budget, and sometimes up to 80% of their annual budget to repay. And then they had to repay the high loans, and then they were invaded, and then. And so we have a lot to think about. This is not a quick fix. It's been going on for hundreds of years. The country went almost 60 years without being recognized as a state. And that was a form of punishment as well. 60 years. Think of an infant all the way to age 60. That's how long the punishment went directly from some states to Haiti. So, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Whitfield, and then Dr. Micklewhite has a question.
So I started by mentioning Dr. Martin Luther King. And like I said, his life and legacy is something we could really study as a blueprint. During the Montgomery bus boycott, there was a group of persons who decided they're gonna walk for months. They decided where they were going, they were gonna get there anyhow, without using the bus. And that changed things. So I say that to say, in my view, collectively, when we look at France in particular, in my view, there are products that come from France that we in the region, in the world, possibly may have to boycott. Because otherwise, I'm not sure how they're going to come to the table. We've been trying for so long and nothing is really happening, but that's just my view.
Yeah, I recall in 1984 Olympics, apartheid, South Africa was boycotted, if you remember. So let's hear from Dr. Micklewhite and her question.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Wallace, thank you very much for your presentation. I listened to your positive comments about the fact that the arc of justice is trending in the right direction. And I'd like to believe you. However, given the realities of what is happening in the United States now and the anti-woke movement, I'm wondering, do you really see reparative justice coming to the United States or happening in the United States? Thank you.
All right, let's be succinct with our comments.
Yes.
I think it's something that has to be pursued. It has to be, like I said, you have to be focused, you have to be dedicated, and you have to be locked in. Sometimes we're distracted by many other things. Generations in the past knew what their call was. They didn't have other things distracting them. So I believe if more persons come on board, even like I said, in the sense that Martin Luther King left the blueprint for us, it's really up to persons in America and elsewhere to follow that blueprint in achieving reparatory justice, using the power of your dollar to change things.
And I do believe that, you know, change takes time. It was 400 years for us to get here. Remember that. So I think that, you know, persistence is a big part of it. And determination is a big part of it. I also know some very strong NGOs and advocates in the US. They're not giving up. And this too shall pass. This period shall pass. And I always say that I may not see it for my daughter who's a teenager, but hopefully my granddaughter will see it, or my great-granddaughter will see it. But I believe that it will happen, and it's about persistence. Certainly, even the end of slavery wasn't an overnight thing. It took hundreds of years of negotiating and discussion on how can we get this to happen. We thought it would never end. It has ended.
Okay, very good. We have a gentleman, I believe, over here who has a question. And we'll have, well, we have a long line up here. So we're trying to end by 9, so you have to cooperate. And we also have a little Junkanoo rush out. Okay, but we'll go over here first. Good evening.
I must say I want to congratulate the University of the Bahamas, the OAS, and everybody that organized this event. I almost didn't come to this event. I'm glad I did. I must say, though, when I look around in the audience and I see the many empty seats, that speaks to me about how much work we got to do. Here's my question. I know I can fix me. I know we can fix the Bahamas. I know we will fix Haiti, and I know we will fix Africa. As long as we see the solution within ourselves, we'll do it. I've been working on a paper called Repair-vestments, and I think I'm going to leave on this and ask the gentleman, Mr. Whitfield, I'm glad you opened the point about economics. I am chairman of Civil Society's Economics Committee. I'm here with the president of Civil Society. I'm going to leave you with this. And I heard the lady talk about resources and money and finances. Do you know that in the Caribbean alone, we spend $92 billion importing goods and services from other countries? Do you know in the Caribbean alone, we spend $56 billion importing fuel from people who probably don't like us? Why don't we? I was saddened. I think what we need now, I remember when South Africa had its problem, somebody from the Bahamas led the world in fixing South Africa. Maybe the Bahamas need to find somebody again to fix Haiti, to fix the Bahamas, and fix Africa. I want to encourage us. We're here for a purpose. Our children depend on us. What in the area of self-empowerment, I'm asking the panel, can we do? I understand boycotting France and America and maybe some others are things that we can do, but what is it that we can do individually to change the path that the African diaspora is on to make the world a better place? Thank you.
And he was referencing the 1985 Nassau Accord that was spearheaded by Sir Lyndon Pindling. Do you all have a quick comment?
What can be done? I think in a short answer from my perspective, thank you for mentioning the economic side of it, but I think education, education, education. I think that people are not adequately aware of the realities of the situation. They do not know what's going on, so you need to educate yourself and ensure that others around you are educated on it. That's the beginning of it. Knowledge is the beginning of it all for me.
Yes, to support what my panelists has said as well is, yes, education, and we need our own personal revolution, which would include education. So that would be my only contribution, that you have to start within yourself, look within the mirror, and make changes starting from yourself.
Great. And we have one last question. This will be it for tonight. Dylan? Or is it Chris?
Yes.
Chris, okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening, everyone. We had no band. We had no instrumental studies. We had many courses were introduced. But I was determined to make my contribution. I want to make a contribution to whatever needs to be done to help us to love ourselves as a people. And nothing is going to happen for the Bahamas, or Haiti, or any other marginalized country until we all learn that we want people and we love ourselves. There are many opportunities that I am aware of that could have happened for the universities in Bahamas. And we watch, even at this time, where funding is not coming here to help our people, by our people, but we choose to bring other people to save us. We have to save ourselves. I'm willing to do whatever I can, through music, through discussion, through whatever, to help this cause. Music is a powerful tool. The students that played for you earlier, if you would ask many of them a few years ago they like the Haitian music, they probably couldn't tell you. They probably prefer rap and reggae and rock and the other stuff. But in the past 15 years, we have an overly subscribed class of people who are enjoying the music in the Bahamas, learning about the artists. But we just need support. We need to wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, I love being a Bahamian. I love being black. I love being of African descent. And despite what happened to us in the past, we are here, and it's up to us. First individually, then collectively, because without individual, there's no collective. We have to decide, I'm going to do what I need to do. Because I'm not here. I don't know this money. It's not money. It's just passing through, as you said, young man. So, a while ago, I'm going to do what I can. If everybody do that, then we have collective. And we can make it.
Great. That was a comment more than a question, but very profound. Very good. Very good. All right. We are coming to the close of our program. We have a delight, a surprise. We have a Junkanoo Russia. Before I do that, though, I must thank our panelists. Thank you very much, Mr. Whitfield. Thank you very much, Ms. Curry. You've done fantastic. Really appreciate your thoughtful, insightful comments and your responses to the questions as well. Thank you very much. And without further ado, we are going to have St. John's College Junkanoo Group perform for us live right now. Now, that was impressive, hey. And you know, it's Chris, you didn't go and practice with them beforehand. You just joined.